All right, so recipes, where are we? The word counter. All right, this one's fun. So this is going to do exactly what it sort of says it's going to do. We're going to create a word counter to be able to retrieve all the blocks on the page, count the words, and conditionally lock the post from being saved if there are not enough words. Okay, so while I am doing this, okay, cool. Okay, so that's running word counter. So this is similar to like that the editorial notes that we kind of did before. You could tie this into that pretty easily. Just the conditions around locking would be different, but that's kind of a cool thing. So let's turn off transforms and let's work on where is the word counter. We will do that. And how are we there? Okay, so it's formatting JS, compiling block and generating block manifests, CD word counter npm start, and we will do that. I will close all this. I will close this. I will close this. So we have our word counter plugin here. So let's look at step 1. Okay, we've done that setup, preparing the build process. Okay, so there's no blocks in this, so we're going to modify our build process to, we're going to replace the build and start commands with these things, because all this is doing is telling scripts, just go load this one JavaScript file, don't worry about blocks, because we don't need to worry about blocks. So I'm going to get rid of the existing build and the existing start, and I'm going to just drop those right there, and with a little comma, and then that's not formatting. Okay, so let's stop this and run start again. So it's going to try to looking for source word counter. That's cool. Okay, we're going to do that. I'm going to hide this and jump back over to here. Okay, cool. So we've got that running. All right, so now let's set up some of the enqueues. Now that we're building the script, you need to enqueue the build file in the block editor. So we're going to add this to the main file of the PHP. Main PHP file. Looks like there's nothing in there. So this is standard stuff. This is pretty straightforward stuff. Again, what we're going to do is we're going to see is the asset.php file in the build directory, right? If it exists, we're going to include it, and then we're going to enqueue our word counter JavaScript using the assets and dependencies and all that fun stuff from there. This is just a nice way of not having errors fire and only enqueuing it if you've actually built, because this will, I don't think actually include that doesn't fire an error. If this should probably be required. Because PHP require fires an error if you can't get it. But anyhow, we'll put it back. Okay, cool. So we've enqueued that stuff. So it's code, the slot fill plugin. Okay, so we need our code to run inside the block editor and display some information. So what we want to do is we don't want it to run only when the block is selected, because that's not really too helpful. Actually, and there's no block. So we need this to run all the time. And the way that we can do that is we can kind of hijack the slot fill system a little bit to do it, but this is what we're going to do. So we're going to use the slot fill system, which is one of my favorite things in the whole wide world. And I'm just going to get this open, and we're going to just add that. So we're going to pull in, holy crap, Ryan. We're going to pull in register plugin. What is going on here? Stop with your stop. There we go. So we're gonna pull in a register plugin from WordPress plugins. We're gonna register our plugin called Block Developers Cookbook Word Counter, and the render property is the component that needs to be rendered. So right now we're not rendering anything. We're just returning null. So this is just boilerplate, right? So now let's fill in our. So we're gonna use the plugin post status info panel to show the feedback to the user. So we need to import that, and that appears just below, like right in here. So right just below this, I think it just appears right in here. All right, so we're going to pull that in, and then we're just going to show some information. So we're just going to change that return from a null, which in React world, every component must return something. So it either returns markup or null. Even though null is null, it is still not nothing, if that makes sense. So you always have to either return markup or null or full. Yeah. So this is just going to show us where the word count information is going to go. So we should see if we haven't broken the world, which there's a 60% chance. So okay, so it actually shows up right here. So this is where the word count for this post is going to appear. Okay. So we've got that in place. Good times. Good times. All right, so now we're going to get the number of blocks in the content. So this is going to get a little bit more complicated. Now that we're displaying something, let's get to work on counting things. So what we want to do is we're going to use the useSelect hook from WordPress data. So we're going to pull this in here, and then we're just like, so this is, again, this is just a bunch of boilerplate right now, but we're going to call this pretty right at the top of our component. And so we're going to access the data store at core block editor, and oh no, so we're just going to replace that whole bit and get rid of that, right? So this is going to say select from this store the function called get blocks, and this is going to return to us all the blocks that are in the current post where this is being rendered. All right, so we can just update this in line here. We can just add this and say there are blocks at length blocks on this page. So if we refresh this now, I'm going to just add a copy. Just going to just do that so we actually have something. So if I refresh this now, we should see there are 3 blocks on this page. So now if I were to do this, you can now see that there are 4 blocks on this page, right? So it's smart enough to sort of like know what's going on. It responds to changes in the store is a more technical way of saying that. All right, you might notice that I've been accessing these store names with a string, and that's fine, but you can actually retrieve the store name from the package itself, which is a little bit better way of doing it, only because if the store name ever changes, it'll change inside the block. It'll change inside the the package, and you can just refer to it like this. So what we're going to do is we're importing store, which is the name of the variable that stores the string that is core block editor, and we're going to call it block editor store, and I'm just going to pass that there. And so that's going to give us a bit more robust way of doing that, right? It doesn't really change anything in the code, still works the same way, but it's a little bit better in the sense of like consistency, and if things change down the road, you know, like hard coding elements is never really a great thing. We can retrieve data versions or whatever. So now we can see like nothing's changed. We still have 4 blocks on this page. Cool. All right, next step. Counting the words on the page. Okay, so now that we have the blocks, we can get the word count. Luckily for us, there is a package that makes it easy called @WordPress word count. Fun fact about that was the first thing I ever contributed to the Gutenberg project. Was I worked on converting the word count package from like vanilla JS to something that would to like module to a package, and I broke it and had to do a quick fix. It was fun. Cool. So what we're going to do is we're going to import count from WordPress /word count. This is going to be the function that we use to count things. Sounds like the right one. And then let's add a couple of parameters, or sorry, constants here. So this is going to be, the message is going to be there are blocks at length blocks on this page, and then we're just going to count the number of words in this message and then display it slightly different, like this. Right, so we're going to say message, there are number of words in this message. It's kind of a weird thing, right? So there are 4 blocks on this page. There are 7 words in this message. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 words in this message. Beautiful. So we're getting there, definitely getting there. Okay, so in order to count the function, we need, in order for the count function to get the number of words in our list of blocks, we need to convert the array of blocks into a string that it can understand. So the serialize function is what we're going to use to do that. So we're going to import serialize from WordPress blocks, right? Okay, we're going to grab that again, and then we're going to serialize. So now we're just going to make a bit of changes here. We don't care about that old message anymore. So the new number of words in content is going to be, we're going to serialize the array of blocks, and then it's going to count the words in that list, right? And then we're going to output that into our post status info message. So now there are a number of words in content, words in the content. So let's see what that looks like. So there are 120 words in the content, and as we change this, we should be able to see now there's 119 words in the content, right? And so on and so forth. So it is going to count that for us. No problem. And see, as we delete stuff, we can see that it's being updated in real time. Pretty awesome. Pretty darn awesome. So the next step is determining, is there enough content for us on this post? First of all, we're going to use two hooks. We're going to use the useEffect and the useState hook to store some internal state for this component. That's not at all where that needs to go. So because we need to we need to keep track of all this stuff. So that's why we're using state here. So in this case, we're going to use state to keep track of the number of words. And so when you use state, we're going to set the default value of word count display to 0, because when you start a post, there's no stuff in there, right? And then we're going to set a required amount of words. So just for the sake of this, we're going to say we need 200 words, right? And then so let's just update this. So it's going to show us what the word count display is, right? So this is the number up here. So if we refresh this now, it should tell it's 0 because it's not actually connected to anything. So there is 0 words in this content, which we can clearly see is not correct, but we need to connect those dots here. So the next part of it is we're going to take a useEffect hook and we're going to track the changes to the useEffect hook based on when the blocks change. So let's put this in. We're going to track the changes in the, if I can highlight that, we're going to track the changes in the content, and we're going to put it up here. Okay, so for now, I'm going to just, don't need to do this, locked true, oh, I see, okay. So there's a bunch of stuff going on here. So what this is happening, so just ignore this part for now. So what useEffect is going to do is every time the blocks change, every time this variable changes, meaning we insert blocks, change blocks, update blocks, whatever, anytime that changes, this useEffect is going to run. So the first thing that it's going to do, it's going to just set a variable called lock post. We're just going to set it to false because we're going to assume that we can publish, right? And then we're going to get the word count because we have blocks available to us. So we're gonna get the current word count using count, serializing the blocks, and count takes a parameter where you can change some of the stuff. You can count characters, you can count whatever. So we're gonna say words, which is what it was doing anyways, but this is a bit more verbose. And then we're gonna set the word count display, which is the state. And then we're gonna check to see, is the current word count, this thing, less than the required word count, which we defined down here, right? If it is, we're gonna set lock post to true. And then in this case, we're going to console log, is it locked or unlocked? Okay, so that's what's going on in here. Let me just see, is there anything else in here in word count display? Okay, I'm not actually using that anymore, so I don't need that anymore. So this should, as we're editing and messing around with this, if I look in our console, we should see console. So this is locked because there are 99 words. So if I were to add more, right, still locked, still locked, still locked, still locked. And now it's unlocked down here. And if we look at the post, we can see we've got 219 words. If we remove this many words, we get 210. Remove this many words, we get 202. We're still unlocked. We get rid of those 3. Now we're locked because we're at 199 underneath that barrier. And yeah, okay, so that's cool. So now we have to actually do something with this locking and unlocking thing. So the next part of this is going to be how we're going to actually lock it. So we're going to pull in, what are we doing here? So we're going to use dispatch from the use. Okay, so we're going to pull in use dispatch, which is a way of telling the store to do something. So use select and use dispatch appear in the same package, the WordPress data package. So we're going to import that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to say lock post saving or, sorry. The next thing we have to do is get those functions from the store. Okay, so we're doing another thing here where we're going to import the store from the editor, and then we're going to use this the use dispatch hook. And what this is going to do is this is going to basically pull these two functions off of the store and allow us to call them and dispatch stuff, right?
Oh, you made a wise choice, my friend.
So lock post saving, unlock post saving does what you'd think it does. It locks and unlocks the post. So then down here, instead of the console logs, we're gonna lock and unlock the post here, right? So like, okay, so this is yelling at me saying that I should probably add these things in here. So I don't think no, I need to do that. So this is a use effect thing that basically, when you have dependencies inside the use effect, you should add them to the list of dependencies because it's better. And I think that's all we have to do. Oh, okay. All right. So the other thing I'm doing is I'm adding a custom component here that I have. So I'm just going to add that one so we can. We're just going to do this. What is this? Oh. I'm already using that. I had a duplicate import. Let me just double check that that's right. Yeah, I gotta fix that. Okay. Okay, cool. So now this word count display component just lives in here. If we want to take a quick look, what it does is it takes the word count and the required amount, and it checks this stuff, and it shows some icons, and it does some cool things. And then so we'll just replace our little message down in here with that component, and then assuming everything got installed the way it should, we should have, we should have some stuff going on here. So if we go into, okay, so, there we go. That shouldn't be publishable. Is it? Should it be publishable? You know what? I ran into this before, and I think I need to call a second function. And I can tell you exactly what it is because I ran into this on my repositories. If I go in here and I go to, it's like a pre-published checklist. That's it. There it is. Okay. So this is actually a workshop that I ran in 2022 at WordCamp Europe, and this is doing the same thing. So I'm pretty sure I have to check at that. So let's look at the plugin. Let's look at the index, and then do I have final plugin? I think is what I want. Yeah. So I think I actually have to import a couple of things from here. Yeah. So these are the ones that I have to run. So there's a weird case that I found. I clearly need to update this, but instead of just getting these two, I found that you had to actually have all four of these. And so you basically call it like this. So I'm just gonna grab that, and this should work because there's like there's a difference between like enabling the button and actually, yeah, sure. And then so let's refresh that. And I'm gonna update this. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so now you can see up here that this is actually disabled. So if I start adding more content in, this should get me over. I'm at 99. So if I do that, now you can see that the button got actually enabled there. So there's two things that have to happen: the post saving, and like I believe that if we could leave these off, we wouldn't be able to save. Like it wouldn't actually save, but the UI doesn't display that. So that's what this is. So I'm gonna have to update that to make this more obvious that I'm actually doing that. So you can't actually save this. I think you can save drafts, but you can't actually publish it, which is good times. All right. So that was the word counter.